I got a real the best of the month, I would say, at least. But before we do, we want to touch on a TikTok video my son sent me, and crucial information for the designers out there. So let's try this one. Here we go.
Perfect for the 4th of July.
Font
Check this
choice
out. Here's
matters.
the Declaration of Independence in its original font. It would not be nearly as effective in Comic Sans. That would suck. And check it out in curls. Who the hell is that? We would not have the United States if they had a curl font. And I put it in wingdings just because I'm a nerd. Here's the other thing. Watch this. This is how important font choice is. Look, if I sent this message to Timo, you will always be mine. Just plain font. Look what happens if I put it in the miss you font. All of a sudden, you will always be mine. Even throws little hearts on there. Same message. Just the font. You will always be mine. And then check it out in something called Something Strange. You will always be mine. No one else will have you. You will always be mine. Here's my message. Pick your font carefully. Font.
Okay, so font choice matters, and I've always believed that. So now you know for sure. And it amazes me what people can do comic routines with fonts. Who would have ever thought? Anyway, but I thought it was appropriate, and you will not find it anywhere else. More than likely, right? More than likely. Okay, so let's get over to the PDF world, and Horizon detects inflation area consumer segments. And I'm not exactly sure what Horizon is. Okay, I went to their website. There wasn't a real explanation, but apparently I thought it was Verizon, and I thought, well, why would Verizon care? And it's not. It's Horizon. And apparently there's some kind of consumer research group, okay? And they claim that there's 3 economic mindsets and they referenced, this is from Media Daily News, right? But Media Daily News is referencing a report that I also will upload, Inflation Nation, the status of the American dream and how brands can help. And they make that available free for just giving them all your information, right? And they said that basically there's a wallet lockdown, and so they decided they would try to figure out, do people have a clear understanding of what inflation is and what's causing it? What are the effects? And what brands can do to build loyalty? So that was kind of their mission, and like I said, that will be available on the WDMA.org website. All you have to do is subscribe. It's free. Give us your information, and you can get it. You don't have to give it to Horizon Media Inflation Nation. Whatever. Anyway, so they said, we're not going out as much as we used to, but we may not be cutting back on in-home entertainment because we're stuck at home. A little bit reminiscent. They said it's a financial mindset that hasn't been as prevalent since the Great Depression. It's hard to say, but I know that one thing about the Great Depression was that movies were extremely popular and extremely successful. Now, it was a new thing, but it also was an escape from the sort of the humdrum of the 30s. Also, many movie theaters were the very first buildings that offered air conditioning, and so people would go in there because the 30s were the hottest temperatures on record. If you don't believe me, check out the hottest day in Wisconsin history. I think it was 113 degrees. It was at Wisconsin Dells, interestingly, so not a heat island. And it was in 1933, I think, but in there somewhere it's 36. Can you imagine the headlines today if it was 113 degrees? You know, we get headlines for it hitting 85 and being humid. But he says, oh, this is the hottest summer I can remember. Yeah, okay. Anyway, so movies were popular in the 30s. So here's some quotes. This one is from Y Group, which I think is Y Group. WHY, Senior Vice President, Cultural Intelligence, Maxine Gervich. You know, that sounds like a job looking for looking for something to find. Um, but and lo and behold, she found something. We identified 3 distinct audiences. So how and where you show up for these audiences are going to matter. They're going to change depending on their positive outlook on life, their negative outlook on life, and their income. They identified the resilient, the vulnerable, and the anxious. And I probably bounce between all 3 depending on my mood. You may also. Most of the time, yeah, we'll get through this. And then sometimes I think, gee, my savings, if the price is double, then my savings just got cut in half, which I thought might be marginally enough, but now it's not even close. Then there's another Y Group Senior President of Human Intelligence, Steve Grant, said that it's heightened the way that materially affects consumer branding. A lot of long words, long sentences. The most interesting part that I thought in the article was they have not detected any major shifts in media consumption or adoption. So they're claiming that there's a whole new mindset, but they don't see any behavior changes. So that kind of makes the whole thing a little bit suspicious. Anyway, you can read the entire thing. I'll upload it on WDMA. But the thing I wanted to talk about most, always in the second half, forget personalization. It's impossible and it doesn't work. My kind of article, right? Peter Weinberg and John Lombardo from the B2B Institute, which is a LinkedIn, some kind of subsidiary of LinkedIn based in London. And that's down at the very bottom of the article if you want to get all the way to there, but I moved it up to the top. I don't know why they didn't put all that in there. But anyway, what's the worst idea in marketing history? Everybody has their own answer. It could be brand purpose. Yeah, that's right up there. And it could be short-termism, which Mark Ritson talks about a lot. But for us, the answer is personalization. Okay, so John and Peter think personalization. You can't go more than 5 seconds at a marketing conference without hearing the promise of one-to-one personalization. You know, I remember when Peppers and Rogers came out with the book that was about the one-to-one marketing. That wasn't the name, but that was basically their shtick, and they became famous and speaking all over the place. And I scratched my head and realized that oftentimes the idea that people want to believe is more powerful than the ideas that are true. But anyway, in 2019, it was named the word of the year. And proponents believe, and this is the real key word here, believe that we are entering a new era in marketing where every creative message will be tailored to the specific needs of individual buyers. This extreme form of segmentation will deliver greater relevancy, which will translate into more sales for business. Now, what's interesting is, here's my book, Spinning Straw into Gold. I start my book with a story. And it says, when I began consulting in the early 80s, Farm Journal magazine was the shining paradigm of database marketing. They understood that there were many different types of farmers: hog farmers, wheat farmers, or orange farmers. Advertisers wanted to target more specific farm interest groups. Farm Journal magazine began by surveying and then segmenting their subscribers. They worked with their printer, R.R. Donnelly, to develop Selectronic Bindery. The direct marketing trade magazines were full of articles predicting this was a glimpse into the future. One day, very soon, every magazine and catalog would be tailored to the individual household. Junk mail would be finished. Everything would be different. Reminds you of the internet, folks, a few years ago, doesn't it? And yet, this was in the late 70s, really, where the whole thing got going. And yet, the promise is still over the horizon today, right? So, what do Peter and John say? There's just one problem with personalization: it doesn't make any sense. And boy, do they pound on that, right? The case against personalization can be reduced to two words: couldn't and wouldn't. Couldn't. The difficulties of personalization. They point out that a lot of it in the internet world is based on third-party data, and third-party data is mostly wrong. They said that academic study from MIT and Melbourne Business School, researchers decided to test the accuracy of third-party marketing data. How accurate is gender targeting? It's accurate 42.3% of the time. That's less than a coin toss. That's worse than a coin toss, which you'd get half the time. I was looking up the baseball scores just yesterday, and I got an ad for Lacy Women's Underthings. Big. Right in the middle of Sports Illustrated. Baseball scores. Maybe they think I'm a woman. Maybe they think I shop for that. But I never have in my life. I can't think of why they would. Somehow, something, somewhere made them think that. And every time Sports Illustrated tries to personalize for me, they make it worse. That their website is the worst website I go on. They just happen to have a button that says scores that only shows me what I want to see. The rest of the entire website is garbage, in my opinion. ESPN, if you're listening, you need to give me the option of what not to look at. Forget about my preferences that you think you can guess what I might be interested in. You are terrible at that. Instead, give me the choice. I never want to see, I don't know what, women's rugby against lacrosse teams or something. I don't know. There's so many silly sports that come up in my feed. I just don't ever want to see them ever, right? And I would like to basically turn off all but about 3 sports, especially in their off seasons. What's the point? Yes, I care deeply about the next potential top 10 draft picks. We'll wait a couple of years and see how that works out. Anyway, so just age targeting, it's accurate between 4 and 44% of the time. Between there somewhere. 20%? Really horrible. Okay, horrifying. But companies spend millions of dollars hyper-targeting. Oh, this was about B2B. They spent millions of dollars hyper-targeting IT decision makers. I see that come up now as a new buzzword. Hyper-targeting. We're going to hyper-target because our lists are so good. Okay? And what they found was that basically 7.5% of their marketing is maybe hitting senior IT decision makers. That's about as precise as a drunk monkey throwing darts. You're not even hitting the dart board, much less what you are aiming at. Okay, and so then now they're saying we're going to pivot to more contextually relevant and attentive channels while working with partners who had permission first-party relationships with IT DMs. Okay, so, but, the high priest believed this is just a temporary inconvenience. Never mind, it's been almost 50 years of promise not delivered. Okay, then they go on, the ineffectiveness of personalization. And I have firsthand examples of this, but we're going to stick with the article for the most part. The logic of personalization, even if it were possible, still wouldn't work. Even if we knew everything about the consumer, which they claim, we still wouldn't be able to design creative, meaning as used as a noun, tailored to their individual tastes. I don't like it that way, but anyway. Disney only invests in creative that works across all segments: superheroes, lost animals, magical princesses. The biggest movies, books, songs, and ads all speak to universal experiences that resonate with everyone. Marketers would be much better off investing in performance branding In other words, one size fits most creative that speaks to the common category needs of all potential buyers all the time. Personalization at scale is an oxymoron. There's no real evidence that marketing personalization works at all. I have evidence that it doesn't work, that it's a lot of work and it doesn't pay off. There are just a bunch of flimsy experiments from personalization companies who are talking their book at your expense. Can you name a single famous brand built through personalization? Didn't think so. And you know, the study that's most often cited is they've asked people, if the ad was relevant to you, would you be more likely to purchase? And everybody says yes. It's up in the 80s. Something like 85% said, of course, if it's relevant to me, I would purchase. And there's the rub. They use that, they interpret that to say, because we make ads more relevant, they will be relevant to that person. It's actually the opposite. The opposite, because as we saw with the Sports Illustrated example, the more highly targeted you offer me of one product, right? Women's undergarment. God. You know, never mind. I mean, I saw, you know, as a kid watching TV, I learned about cross your heart bras and that lift and separate, and you know that I'd walk a mile for a camel. You know, you learn about, but they weren't on there because it was personalized. They were on there because it wasn't, because it had a large reach. Okay, so let's go one step further for John and Peter. This is what I started saying back in the 80s when Peppers and Rogers made this one-to-one and customer relationship management popular. I said, okay, let's pretend that we do know everything about me. Heck, I know someone who does. Me. I know everything about me. Okay? Now, let's ask me if I can predict the next thing I'm going to want. And I don't mean lunch, which is coming up soon. I mean the next purchase, the next category of purchase. You know, yesterday I was searching for solar power supplies with batteries for my house because the power went out, right? I was thinking about generators. Power came back on, everything works. Probably not going to buy any of that stuff. But I noticed that the instant I clicked on one of them, my Facebook feed was full of solar power offers, okay, because they're targeting me. And so one of the things I know is the one that I did click on, for sure I'm not going to buy from. It had the word Illinois in the company name. So for sure that's not going to happen. And I know that I'll have lots of information. I'll be deluged with information for the next few months because I clicked on one ad, right? And I know for sure I'm not going to buy that ad I clicked on. And that's the problem. The problem is me knowing all I know about me can't predict me 2 days in the future. The power goes out, my thoughts on what I might buy next change dramatically. You understand that? Think about you. Think about who's actually targeted you, right? Now, I don't mean the you know, if you're talking about with your spouse or a friend over your Google phone, if you're talking about, you know, buying a pizza and a pizza ad miraculously shows up in your on your phone, I'm not exactly talking about that. That actually may work even though they spy on you. I'm talking about actual real purchases and actual real offers, and that's the big rub. The big rub is the more specificity in your offer, the lower your response, even with your own customers. And I've seen that over and over and over and over. You know, companies will spend millions trying to get their order processing system to tell their customers as they log on, tell them, you might also be interested in this. Death. That's not how Amazon does it. Amazon says people who bought this also bought. No implication that they can predict you. Notice that. Notice the biggest online merchant does not say, we think you're going to be interested in this. They avoid that because it's offensive, right? It also narrows the offer. So I heartily agree. You can't personalize because it doesn't matter though. Not only is third-party data unreliable, doesn't matter if it was all perfect. And you wouldn't personalize because even if you could, marketing works by reaching everybody with the same message to create shared associations. My definition for a market is a group of people you can say the same thing to. And that doesn't mean that you can market annuities to teenagers. We're not saying that. We're not saying that you shouldn't have market segments. It makes perfect sense that you shouldn't market differently to your best customers who will buy anything you send them than the sale buyers who only buy if they're given a supreme discount. But don't give the discount necessarily to your best buyers or test it. Anyway, Gartner predicts 80% of marketers will abandon personalization by 2025. I'm surprised they ever embraced it, but it's an idea that we all wanted to believe, and it does not work. Happy to call in, tell me why I'm wrong. Happy to discuss, happy to have you on the show. Anyway, thank you very much to Peter Weinberg and John Lombardo. I don't think they went far enough because the impossibility is right in your own mind. Have a great day. Bye-bye.